So, as Germans would say. If you have been following me here for a while, you will know already that I have now lived in Berlin for about almost half a year actually, about 5 months. So I really wanted to make this video to share with you some of the initial culture shocks I had. Although obviously I've been to Germany a lot of times before moving to Berlin. So some of these culture shocks I actually experienced a long time ago and I'm getting used to them somewhat now, and some are still just shocking and I don't think I'll ever get used to them. So I'll start with one thing that might shock a lot of people, and that is that everything in Germany is closed on a Sunday. All supermarkets are closed, most service places are closed. The only thing that's open is restaurants and cafes. So if you usually tend to do your shopping on a Sunday, which I know is a very common day for a lot of people, you will not be able to do that in Germany. You will have to plan it on a different day. Me and my boyfriend actually do it usually on a Saturday, and we'll just buy what we need for the Sunday and for the next week. It's not that shocking to me personally because I grew up in Belgium, and in Belgium it's a very similar situation. So for me it was like, oh okay, I'm used to this, but I haven't lived in Belgium for a very long time. I lived in London for 9 years, so I got used to everything being open all the time. So when it hit me again, I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, it's actually kind of nice though in a strange way. It's a very calm day Sunday and you get to spend it with your friends and your family and do something nice. It's a peaceful day, a break for everyone. I've mentioned this before and I have to mention it again because it still shocks me every time. You cannot get water for free at any restaurant. And I'm not talking about fancy bottled water. I'm talking about basic, simple tap water. You have to pay for it if you want it. So beware, if you go to a restaurant and you ask for water, tap water, it's not going to come on the house, and they will probably look at you weirdly if you ask for tap water. They're not really the biggest fan of that, but if you do, they will most likely tell you that there is a charge on it, or they'll just bring it to you and then they'll just charge you for it at the end, and prices can be quite dramatic. We went to a restaurant the other night, and yes, it was a little bit more of a fancy bougie one, but it was €4.50 for tap water. Yeah, for tap water. Sorry, I cannot in my head get why they charge for tap water. As I've mentioned, I've lived in places like London where tap water is just, it's a regular, normal thing. I know restaurants make a big profit on drinks, but still, it's like somehow not okay in my opinion. Which also leads me onto the fact that regular water here is considered as sparkling water. So if you go into a restaurant or a cafe and you order water, make sure to specify you want still water if that's what you want. Otherwise they will most likely bring you sparkling water because in their heads that's considered regular water. So keep that one in mind. Another thing that's not free in Germany, this one cannot get used to it and I don't think I ever will, is public toilets. You almost always have to pay for a public toilet. Obviously, if you're in a restaurant or in a cafe and there's a bathroom, you can go without paying. But in a train station, for example, you have to pay for toilets, and everywhere else that's public that you can think of, you most likely have to pay for the toilet. It'll either be like a barrier that you have to insert coins into to get through to the toilet, or there'll literally be someone physically standing there with a little dish asking for money for the toilet. So that's a thing, and I am absolutely not a fan of it, I must say. I cannot get used to this because I just cannot understand why people need to be charged to urinate. This should be a free thing, just as much as water should be free. And to be completely honest, the toilets are not that much cleaner than other toilets I've experienced in my lifetime that were completely free to go to. So I do not understand why you have to pay for toilets in Germany. If you know, please let me know, because I'm genuinely intrigued. It's very odd in my opinion, and anxiety inducing and just very stressful. I guess it levels out. You don't drink much water because you have to pay for it, so then you don't have to pee. You don't have to pay for it. So tipping in restaurants, cafes, or anywhere else that provides service is not mandatory in Germany, but you should do it, because if you don't tip, you kind of look like an asshole, and you don't want to look like an asshole. It's also kind of an asshole thing to do, to be honest. I mean, depends obviously on the service, but even if the service is like average, you still should tip, because otherwise you're seen as pretty rude, especially if it's a place that you want to keep going back to. Tip, because it's just the thing here. You should always tip at least a little bit. Which leads me on to my next point, which is a lot of places in Germany still only use cash. Coming from another city that you can use your card everywhere, getting used to having cash on me is not easy for me. I also am not a big fan of having cash because I'm really bad with coins. If I have a bunch of coins, I'll just lose them somewhere amongst jackets or bags bags and then I won't use them. But I do now keep a little cash jar right at my front door so that if I ever order delivery or just need to go somewhere and I know I need to have a tip on me, I just grab a few coins and I have all my tips basically sitting in my little cash jar, so that really helps. But just make sure that you're carrying at least a little bit of cash with you everywhere you go in Germany, because there have been times when, you know, I've gotten to a place and it's only been cash and I'm like, damn, now I have to look for an ATM where I have to ask a friend to borrow money, and it just gets a bit uncomfortable and annoying and time consuming, so it's always good to just have a little bit of cash on you at all times. So one thing that I found very odd about this country is that a lot of rentals come without a kitchen, meaning in an unfurnished apartment, there's also no kitchen, so you have to actually get the kitchen built in, even if you're just renting, which I think is like quite crazy. Some have a kitchen, but you have to pay for the kitchen separately. So it's, you have your rent price and then you have to buy the kitchen on top of that. I found that so bizarre, but it's a thing, so keep that in mind. If you're looking for a place to rent, you may have to buy the kitchen separately and then you can sell the kitchen separately again when you're leaving. If you know what I mean, it's quite weird, but yeah, I haven't experienced anything like that anywhere else in the world, so I don't know if it's a thing anywhere else, but that's just how it is in Germany. So if you're coming from a place that's very relaxed, very easygoing, people are chill, friendly, get to know each other easily, well, that is definitely not the case for Germans. I always hear a lot of stories about how Germans are very rude and not friendly, etc., etc., but I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case. I would say Germans are just very reserved and private people, which I totally respect, and I get that. I also am not very into it when people are overly friendly. It just seems a little bit fake to me. But Germans can seem a little bit rude and a little bit offensive because they're also very direct people, so they'll just say it as it is, and it can come off a little bit offensive if you're not used to that, but just know that that's just how they are. But they're also friendly, it's just on a very reserved level. I think rudeness, as well as how people act around you if you don't speak German very well, really depends on which city you are in Germany. For example, Berlin is super chill, no one really cares, everyone's fine with it, but I can imagine that maybe in, I don't know, Munich, it might be less accepted if you don't speak German, but I don't know, I'm just saying that I'm not very familiar with Munich. It just seems like a very traditional German place. Maybe Dresden. I did go to Dresden once and had a strange experience. People were not very accepting of the fact that I didn't speak German, but it is what it is. And I'm going to finish on this last note because I would like to do this in 2 parts so the video isn't too long for you. Let's talk about the Autobahn. I'm pretty sure most people are aware that on the highway here in Germany, there is no speed limit. So that's quite shocking if you're coming from a place where the speed limit is not higher than 140, which is most cases actually. I mean, we've all gone a little above 140, but we haven't gone 250, most of us. Here you can go 250, and that blows my mind a little bit. I'm not comfortable doing that, but I've been in cars with people who have done that and I'm just sitting there freaking out. It's definitely an experience, but just make sure you take care of yourself when you're driving on the Autobahn here. If you're going to drive in the left lane, make sure you're very experienced. You can go very fast or you can get out of the way very fast, because there will be certain individuals who will really be driving fast, and I'm talking real fast, and you need to get out of the way or they get very pissed off at you. That is where I'm gonna end this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be making a part 2 because I have actually a long list, but I just didn't want to do them all in one, so this doesn't get a little bit too long. I'm loving it so far, don't get me wrong. There are just some things that are a little bit like, what? And I can't get used to them, but with some, I'm totally used to them and it's like second nature now. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's how it is. If you haven't subscribed yet and you enjoy my videos, I basically like to vlog my life in Berlin here. So that's the main thing that I do on this channel. And sometimes I have little sit down videos like this where I tell you a little bit about Germany, culture shocks, impressions, etc., etc. Basically life here, what it's like for someone who isn't German. So if that interests you, do not forget to subscribe, like this video to let me know you enjoyed this one, so then I will do a part 2 for you. You can follow me on Instagram to keep up with me daily, and I'm going to go because I hate long outros, and goodbye. Sit around the fireside, really feeling that I like every little time that I get a chance to close my eyes. If you're gonna make it soon, maybe we could get our room, but I need some rest.